Well, speaking of a magazine I'd like to talk about the art and design. While I was a freshman, I stumbled across this magazine to find some design materials. This magazine is about design, and there are multifarious designers' works. My major is advertising, which requires me to do some advertising brochures, and so I often browse this magazine, and I am attracted by it. The magazine expresses avant-garde concept and an inclusive attitude towards design. There are multiple original designers working for this magazine who may be not very famous, but their works have expressed their own unique ideas about design, which always inspire me. I like this magazine simply because I like design extremely. When I read this magazine, I think able to communicate with some different original designers, and I can also record some important information. In short, this magazine is useful to me. I can benefit a lot from it.
All right, let's have a listen to sample 2 on the same topic of describe a magazine. Here we go.
Well, speaking of a magazine
Again, as I said so many times before, nobody was speaking of a magazine.
I'd like to talk about the art and design. When I was a freshman, I
Okay, so heavy accent. I mean, this when came out as Y.
stumbled across this magazine.
Wait.
Was a freshman, I stumbled across.
Okay, the word is stumbled. Stumbled across this magazine. If you find somebody by something, or someone, I suppose, if you find something by accident, you stumble across it. Good word to use, poorly pronounced. The word is stumbled.
This magazine to find some design materials. This magazine is
So when I was a freshman, so what did she study? If she told us what she studied, we would know more why she needed design materials.
materials. This magazine is about design, and there are
This magazine is about to design. See, that doesn't make sense.
about design and
Is it two? It can't be two, because then it would just be this magazine is about design. So I don't know what this word is.
there are multifarious design.
Instead of saying there, she's saying there. Multifarious, wonderful word. Designers, okay. Rocks, very odd word to use here.
Multifarious designers' works.
See, there's a mix here of very good vocabulary, very dubious vocabulary. I don't know if she actually said rocks. Maybe it's just really poor pronunciation.
Various designers' works.
Sounds like rocks. If it's rocks, I don't know what it means.
My major is advertising, which requires me.
Now, why doesn't she pause here? My major is advertising, which requires me to blah 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 blah. A little bit of a pause, but there's no pause. Remember, you do need to use chunking in your speaking. People do pause between ideas.
My major is advertising, which requires me to do some advertising brochures.
Now, for brochures, she's saying do. Why doesn't she say make? Because you make brochures, you don't do brochures.
In brochures, and so I often browse this magazine, and I am attracted by it.
I'm attracted by it. See, no one is going to say, no native English speaker is ever going to say, I'm attracted by a magazine. Why not just say, my major is advertising, which requires me to make some brochures, and so I often browse this magazine. Forget about the attracted by it. Who is attracted by magazines? No, don't say that.
The magazine express avant-garde concept.
Okay, so we can see here she paused before avant-garde because this is a word that she's not really familiar with. If this is the right word, it should be expresses. Magazine is a singular noun, so the magazine expresses avant-garde concepts. Concepts are countable. Avant-garde, great word to use, but this pause tells us she's not really familiar with this vocabulary. She doesn't feel comfortable using it.
Art concept and an inclusive attitude towards design.
And an inclusive attitude towards design. I don't know much about design, but I'm not 100% sure what she means by that.
There are multiple original designers working for this magazine.
Now, hang on a second. Hasn't she already said that? Let's go back here. Because here she talked about the multifarious designers, and here she's saying there are multiple original designers working for this magazine. Well, you've already mentioned that.
Design. There are multiple original designers.
Okay, this is multiple original designers. See, again, she changed the design into designers. So again, it's a sign that she's not really comfortable using these words.
For this magazine, who may be not very famous.
Who may not be very famous. Who may not be very famous.
But their works have expressed
their works have expressed. This should be a participle. Past participle. Now, works is good. I mean, if you're an artist or someone similar, or a writer, well, I guess a writer is an artist. If you're some form of artist, yeah, what you create is your works.
Unique ideas about design, which always inspire me. I like this magazine simply because I like design extremely.
I like design extremely. Now, the verb is like. The adverb is after the noun, so the word order here is not right. The adverb should go with the verb, because I extremely like design. The problem is, extremely and like don't really go together. Why not say, I love this magazine? You can't say extremely like. These words don't go together.
While I read this magazine, I think able to communicate with some.
Here's the same word. It kind of sounds like to, but I don't know what it is.
Able to communicate with some different original designers, and I can also
Okay, so she's explaining why she likes this magazine. I like this magazine because I love design. Okay, so why not just add a connector here? So I love design. So when I read this magazine, I can communicate with some original content creators. And also I can, again, here she goes here. So maybe just add a little connector here. Just so. So is a simple word, but that'll work. Telling us why you love it so much.
Can also record some important information.
I don't know what she means by this. How do you record information by reading a magazine?
I can also record some important information.
Not sure what that means.
In short, this magazine is useful to me. I can benefit a lot from it.
And here at the end, her pronunciation really breaks down in terms of rhythm is useful to me. I can benefit a lot from it.
Is useful to me. I can benefit a lot from it.
Except for the from it, nothing was really connected. It was just said word by word by word. All right, let's look at some scores. Let's look at the fluency and coherence. As far as fluency goes, is willing to speak at length? Not really, because this is under length. It's about 1 minute and 35 seconds, which for part 2 is not long enough. She did lose a bit of coherence, not really because of repetition or self-correction, just because I couldn't quite understand what her point was. And let's look at the connectives and discourse markers that we used, and why they are not always used appropriately. Here we have this introductory phrase. Speaking of, like I said, in part 2, you should not be using this phrase because no one was talking about the topic you're talking about, only you are talking about it. Here we have when, let's see, nothing here really. Here we have a so, basic words like and, we have some referencing, like for example this magazine, a simple conjunction, but when I read this magazine I think, in short. So adequate. Lex is also 6 because we can generally understand what she's saying even though she does use inappropriate words. And let's look at the inappropriacies again. Nothing much here. I mean, the stumbled upon is actually a really good phrase. Let's look at this. We've got design materials there. That's pretty good. This is more of a pronunciation problem. Here we have multifarious, which is a great word to use. Rocks, which I'm not sure is the right word. This might be inappropriate, or it could just be that I can't understand her pronunciation. Nothing much here. Brochure is pretty good, but it's not wonderful. Express is good, but it should be expresses. Avant-garde, wonderful. Concept is okay, but it should be in the plural. It should be concepts. Inclusive attitude, that's really good. Multiple design is good. Here's the word order is wrong, but that's more of a grammatical thing. Express their own unique ideas about design. Inspire, yeah, that's pretty good. Here we have extremely and like. These words don't go together. Like I said before. Nothing here. I can record some important information. I don't know what she means by record. Okay, so yeah, it's a pretty good answer. 6. For grammar, definitely a mix of simple and complex structures. Let's look at this one here. Rarely causing comprehension problems, referring to mistakes. Rarely cause comprehension problems. So there are mistakes, and rarely do they cause comprehension problems. Let's see if that's true for her. She can use modals. We have a would there. She uses the past tense correctly. She can use infinitives correctly. This might be pronunciation. I'm not sure. That 2 there. Nothing special about that sentence really. Here we have relative pronoun, relative clause, which requires me to do. Oh yeah, I mentioned do is not the right word for that, right? So she can switch between the past tense and the present tense. That's pretty good. I mentioned express before. She can use participles working for this magazine. Here the word order is not right. Who may not be very famous. Here she's using the present perfect tense, but she doesn't use the participle. It should be have expressed, as I said before. That's a grammatical error. Here we have another relative clause using which. Then we go back to the present tense. See, this more a pronunciation problem. So I can't really judge the grammar because I don't know what that word is. And then we have a lot of simple sentences at the end. So yeah, good. 6. Pronunciation, 5. Why not a 6? Well, we don't see her use all the positive features from band 6 all the time, or often enough, like stress and intonation, and I mentioned chunking before, and there are too many instances where I can't understand what she's saying. Let's look at some examples of these.
Well, speaking of a magazine I'd like to talk about the art and design. Why was a freshman?
Like she mispronounces the word when.
I stumbled across
This word is mispronounced. And I mean, I have the luxury of being able to listen to this many times, so I can figure out she's saying stumbled. But the examiner only has one shot to listen to you. So if you mispronounce the word, maybe they're not going to catch what you're trying to say.
magazine to find some design materials. This magazine
Okay, here it's not bad. This magazine sounds like there's a bit of stress on this there.
is about design, and there are
She mispronounces there. It comes out as there.
various designers' works. My major is advertising, which requires me to
My major. Okay, this is not bad. Heavy accent. And when we get more towards the end,
inspire me. I like this magazine simply because I
I like this magazine. It's a bit hesitant.
like design extremely. When I read this magazine, I think able to communicate with some different original designers, and I can also record
Let's see here. Can also record. It's very word for word for word. Nothing flows. There's nothing connected. And as I mentioned, sometimes she lacks in the chunking department also. Here, she should pause between ideas.
In short, this magazine is useful to me. I can benefit.
Like here, how come there's no pause between the ideas? So 5 for that.